The United States blacklisted four steel, aluminum, and iron companies operating in Iran's metal sector, as well as sales agents of Iran's largest steel manufacturer. It's to generate tens of millions of dollars for Tehran's metals industry. The Treasury Department said in a statement the sales agents generated tens of millions of dollars annually from the foreign sale of Mubaraki Steel Company products, providing significant contributions to the billions of dollars generated overall by Iran's steel, aluminum, copper, and iron sectors. The sanctions freeze any U.S. assets held by the companies and generally prohibit Americans from dealing with them. The UN envoy for the Middle East warned Israel that carrying out its plans to annex parts of the West Bank could set off a spasm of violence that would upend Israeli-Palestinian relations and reverberate across the region. Speaking to a group of foreign correspondents in Jerusalem, Nikolai Mladinov, the UN Special Coordinator for the region, said any Israeli unilateral action will have economic and security repercussions on the ground that will affect the lives of both Israelis and Palestinians. His stern warning comes amid a flurry of international pressure on Israel to recant on its plans. Lebanon's President Michel Aoun warned of an atmosphere of civil war during recent unrest and what he described as attempts to stir up sectarian tensions amid an unprecedented financial crisis. The president was speaking at a national gathering that he called for to protect civil peace, but which was boycotted by opponents, including former Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri and other ex-premiers who described it as a waste of time. Other opposition figures refused to attend the meeting, including former Minister Suleiman Faranji, the head of the Lebanese Forces Party, Samir Jaja, the president of the Kataib Party, MP Sami Jamil, and others. Alternate Israeli Prime Minister and Defense Minister Benny Gantz invited Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas to a meeting to discuss U.S. President Donald Trump's plan. Gantz said he was ready for such a meeting immediately at any location chosen by Abbas. His comments are consistent with reports by the Shin Bet Security Service, which noted that the unilateral Israeli annexation of areas in the West Bank would lead to a wave of violence that begins on the southern front but turns into a broader escalation between Israel and the Palestinians. The U.S. is pushing for the resumption of talks between Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan on the filling and operation of the $4 billion Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Washington's efforts came in line with the UN talks held this week at the Security Council to find an exit for the dispute on the dam. U.S. President Donald Trump expressed his country's commitment to facilitating a fair and equitable deal among Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan on the dam during a phone call with his Egyptian counterpart Abdel Fattah el-Sisi 2 weeks ago. The Arab Parliament has condemned in the strongest terms the repeated attacks by the Houthi militias in Saudi Arabia by launching ballistic missiles and drones, urging the United Nations to pressure the insurgents into stopping their aggressive actions. In a resolution issued at the end of its public session, held virtually on the latest developments in Yemen, the parliament held the Iranian regime fully responsible for its flagrant violations of UN Security Council resolutions and its continued supply of smart weapons, ballistic missiles, and drones to the Houthis with the aim of destabilizing the region. The parliament stressed the necessity to adhere to the provisions of the Riyadh Agreement signed between the Yemeni government and the Southern Transitional Council last year. To the United Nations, Area C is Palestinian land in the occupied West Bank, but Israel, which aims to annex parts of the territory, is waging a war of semantics over its status. Pro-Israel NGOs and more recently government agencies are using email and social media to take aim at foreign media about their biased grammar when describing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. As part of these interim Israeli-Palestinian agreements, the West Bank was divided into areas A, B, and C. The first two zones constitute around 40% of the territory and were due to be largely under Palestinian jurisdiction. Emirates Airlines announced it was temporarily suspending its flights from Pakistan after passengers who transited through Dubai tested positive for COVID-19. Emirates spokeswoman announced that following the announcement of positive coronavirus cases in Hong Kong relating to the certain passengers who traveled on our flights, Emirates has taken the decision to temporarily suspend passenger service from Pakistan as of June 24th. The airline has put in place a comprehensive set of measures at every step of the customer journey on the ground and in the air to minimize the risk of infection spread. The U.S. State Department lauded the efforts of Saudi Arabia in countering terrorism in the region, warning that IS militant group continues to direct, enable, and inspire individuals to conduct terrorist attacks around the world. In its country reports on terrorism 2019, the State Department said that Saudi authorities worked closely with the U.S. to implement counter-terrorism commitments and to develop new capabilities to monitor and counter extremist messaging. The report pointed out that Saudi Arabia is the first country in the Middle East that supported the U.S. and international sanctions imposed on terrorist financing networks with a focus on entities that support Iran and its proxies. Saudi Arabia's permanent representative to the UN has pledged the kingdom's backing for international efforts to stop the use of children in armed conflicts. Speaking during a virtual UN Security Council discussion on the subject, Abdullah Al-Mu'alimi called for collective action by the international community to address the issue. In his briefing on behalf of the kingdom, the ambassador said strict and effective measures were needed to target armed militias that used children as human shields and the countries that supported them with money and arms. Foreign donor nations pledged $1.8 billion at a conference hosted by Germany to help Sudan ease an economic crisis hampering its transition towards democracy after the fall of Omar al-Bashir. The European Union pledged $350.13 million, the United States $356.2 million, Germany €150 million, France €100 million, and Britain €150 million for humanitarian and development programs, chief among them planned cash transfers to poor families with the help of the World Bank, officials said at the online event. Saudi Arabia, which has given Sudan $500 million over the past year, donated $10 million. The United Arab Emirates donated $50 million. Dubai police recently arrested Raymond Iqbalodiabas, also known as Hush Puppy, and Olalekan Jacob Ponil Eka Woodbury in a special operation, along with 10 other African cybercriminals. Dubbed Fox Hunt 2, the operation took down the suspects for committing crimes outside the UAE, including money laundering, cyber fraud, hacking, criminal impersonating, scamming individuals, banking fraud, and identity theft. The operation revealed a hidden online fraud network that deceived victims into transferring money in return for job opportunities. The gang used multiple bank accounts to make money transfers and deposits totaling more than $8.7 million. The world is on track to reach 10 million coronavirus cases within the next week, the World Health Organization WHO chief executive said, a sober reminder that as research continues into therapeutics and vaccines, utmost efforts are needed now to suppress transmission and save lives. Addressing journalists from Geneva during the agency's regular press briefing, WHO Director General said that more than 9.1 million cases of COVID-19 have been reported thus far, and more than 470,000 deaths. In the last month, almost 4 million have emerged.